My name is Sarah. I'm 25 years old and work for a local company. I just got married this year and live with my husband Bobby, who's the same age as me. We were colleagues at the same company, an office romance that blossomed into marriage. Bobby has always shared a lot about his family, and he is very family-oriented. When I heard this, I felt he was a very kind person. Perhaps because he values the home so much, Bobby is very proficient in all household chores. Since we will continue to work in the future, I am grateful for Bobby's high level of domestic skills. One day, when we went to meet Bobby's family in preparation for our marriage, only my mother-in-law was there. It turned out Bobby's father had passed away a few years ago. Bobby had been living alone after his father's death, but moves back home to live with his mother. She isn't old enough to receive Social Security benefits yet. Having been a stay-at-home mom all her life, she's surviving on the savings left by Bobby's father, but that's going to run out at some point. Concerned about his mother's living conditions, Bobby moves back home and was providing her with financial support. That's why she seemed anxious about Bobby leaving home after our marriage. Although Bobby and his mom wanted me to live with them, I wasn't really enthusiastic about the idea. That's because all the acquaintances I knew who had lived with their in-laws didn't have successful marriages. Living in someone else's home, even if it's Bobby's family's home, might be stressful. I wanted to avoid that, so I was against living together at this point. When I gently declined the offer to live together, my mother-in-law seemed a bit down. Seeing that, I suggested renting an apartment near her home. That won't be so lonely. Seeing her look relieved, I felt a great sigh of relief. Bobby seemed satisfied too, thinking it'd be okay if he could continue to provide for his mother while living nearby. As for the money for his mother, it seemed to come from Bobby's salary, so I didn't intervene. Perhaps relieved, my mother-in-law seemed genuinely happy about our marriage. I can't believe my son is marrying such a beautiful woman. It's like a dream. That's very kind of you. You don't have to be modest, Sarah. You're a wonderful person. Her words were so direct, I couldn't help but blush. Thinking of her smiling face, I believed happy days were ahead. After we started living in the nearby apartment, my mother-in-law began to visit us often. She would arrive in time for when we returned from work, bringing takeout food with her. She'd come over for dinner 3 or 4 times a week, so we spent half the week eating dinner with her. Cooking after work can be quite tiring, so it was very appreciated to have meals already prepared. However, knowing she was struggling financially, I was a little worried about her frequently buying takeout for us. She said it was okay because she was also eating, but I still felt somewhat guilty. This situation with my mother-in-law lasted for about 6 months, but gradually I began to feel a sense of discomfort. Good evening, Sarah. Aren't you coming home a bit late? Do you think so? I'm working, so it's normal, I think. My mother-in-law gradually started to make prickly comments. Work is a good excuse, but you're a wife, right? Don't you ever think that you need to work a little harder on the household chores? She seemed annoyed that I was coming home at the same time or later than my husband. I manage because I'm the one who brings home the dinner, but you don't seem to cook much. Are you making proper meals for my son? I usually do. Depending on when we get home, there are days when my husband cooks too. That's how we share the chores. You have my son making the meals? What the hell? She reacted dramatically, and I was surprised by her vehemence. My husband has no complaints about sharing the housework. It's not practical for me to be the only one doing it. My wry smile and response seemed to rub her the wrong way, and she turned sour. Don't laugh it off. As a wife, you have to be more proactive in doing the household chores. Although my mother-in-law continued to deliver deli food to our house, I wondered if she was doing her own housework, but I didn't voice my suspicions. "I've been delivering dinner to your place for half a year now, but you don't do anything for us." I appreciated her bringing us food, but I never asked for it. Besides, she eats what she brings over to our place. She doesn't wash the dishes we use, I do that, so she must have some leisure too. I thought she was being kind by doing this, but that wasn't the case. She was trying to find a reason to have me do the housework at her place, but I didn't actually ask for it. "Don't repay kindness with ingratitude. Instead of saying unnecessary things, help out with our housework a little." I have a job, so that's quite difficult. "You're so arrogant, even though my son earns more. Don't get carried away just because you're working." My mother-in-law probably doesn't know about my husband's income. Of course, I haven't even told my husband about my income, so she wouldn't know about it either. She was assuming from old thoughts that the man must be earning more. I was astounded by her outdated way of thinking and didn't even feel like arguing. At that moment, my husband came home.
"I'm home. Mom, you're here."
"Oh, Bobby, I brought dinner again today, but I'm going home now."
"You're leaving today? I always feel bad for having you bring us deli food. Thanks. Oh, and here's the money for this month."
"It's okay. Thanks for the money. Well then, see you later, Sarah." "Yeah, see you." With that, my mother-in-law left, wearing an insufferably sarcastic smile. To make matters worse, she never speaks ill of me in front of my husband, Bobby. It would be easier to explain the situation if she did the same in front of him, but she doesn't. She always played the good mother in Bobby's presence. Despite thinking that Bobby might not understand my mother-in-law's true nature, I reported what she has been saying to me. Can we talk?"
What's up?"
"Your mom has been quite harsh on me lately. Today again, she told me to come over and do the housework."
"Oh, really?"
"I have my job and I'm tired every day, so when I said I couldn't, she got angry." Bobby didn't quite seem to get what I was saying.
"Well, my mom just cares a lot about you, Sarah. Maybe she was just being a bit strict."
With a carefree look, he continued.
"She just wants you to be a good wife for me, Sarah. You should be grateful."
Even after explaining what was being said to me, Bobby didn't understand. Far from it, he started to argue that his mother was right. He affirmed his mother's actions and didn't take my concerns seriously. Feeling that further discussion was futile, I decided not to bring up my mother-in-law anymore. "Hey, Sarah, is this apartment owned by your parents?" My mother-in-law, who had come over to our house as if it were the norm, suddenly said this. With Bobby out shopping, she started whispering, which made me uneasy. In reality, we were living in an apartment owned by my parents, but I had never mentioned that to my mother-in-law. "Yes, but how did you know that?" "I heard it from my son. You own other apartments too?" I sighed deeply, hoping my mother-in-law wouldn't notice. I didn't want her to know, but it seems like Bobby had told her without thinking. It seems so, but the apartments belong to my parents, so I have nothing to do with them. "That can't be. By the way, your parents must have a decent passive income, right?" Judging from the way my mother-in-law was talking, I had a bad feeling. "I'm not really sure about that. I have nothing to do with the apartment business." My mother-in-law seemed irritated that I wasn't engaging with her properly. Even after Bobby came home, she continued to wear a disgruntled expression.
"Mom, what's wrong?"
"Sarah's parents, they own several apartments, right? I didn't know they had so much wealth."
"Sarah, were you hiding this from my mom?"
Bobby, too, started to blame me with this expression. "Hide what? It's not even my money. It's my parents' money we're talking about. Right. Sarah, you said you couldn't help with house chores, right? You don't have to help, but could you increase the amount you send home instead?
What?
I mean, you're not even paying rent, and your parents have money. A little bit more won't hurt. I was shocked by my mother-in-law's selfish words. I pay my rent diligently, and I don't get any particular assistance from my parents. Yet, here she is, trying to leech off my parents' money. My husband, hearing his mother's words, nodded in agreement.
That's true. It's not right to hog all the money, including that of our parents. Sarah, let's ask your parents to send us money.
My son, I knew you'd understand.
So, how much do we need?
Well, just a little bit is fine. How about $2,500?
$2,500?
My husband and mother-in-law didn't stop their outrageous conversation. At this rate, they might contact my parents and force them into sending money. To prevent this, I vehemently refused. I've told you time and again, I cannot send my parents money. As I raised my voice, my mother-in-law clicked her tongue. You have such a bad attitude for a daughter-in-law. With that, she left the house. After she had left, silence lingered between my husband and me. After a while, he broke it.
Sarah, don't you think that was a bit harsh towards my mother?
Instead of defending me, my husband sided with his mother. Why are you saying this too? It's impossible to think of paying such a large amount every month, right? Depending on my parents' money, the one in the wrong is your mother. Even as I said this, all my husband did was sigh.
Try to consider my mom's feelings a little. Anyway, I'm going to bed.
With that, he promptly went to bed. After that, my mother-in-law did not visit our house. She probably didn't want to see my face. Instead, she started calling often. The calls were always about sending money. You talked to your parents about sending money, right?
I haven't.
Why haven't you? You're such a useless daughter-in-law. If you don't want to send money anymore, I'll get you divorced. Such calls continued daily, and I was feeling down. I reached my limit and decided to talk to my husband. Bobby, I'm getting daily calls from your mother. She keeps insisting on sending money, and she even mentioned divorce. I assumed that he wouldn't choose to divorce me over something like this. But my predictions were completely wrong.
For heaven's sake, just give her some money. You're being too harsh on Mom. I can't love someone who can't appreciate my mom.
Excuse me? Bobby's response was the polar opposite of what I thought. His words made me come to my senses. I can't love someone who would defend his mother's greedy opinions over his wife. I completely lost all feelings for my husband, who sided with his mother till the end and arranged for a meeting with my mother-in-law. Oh, Sarah dear, calling me over to your house. Is there some good news you want to share? My mother-in-law was beaming, certain that I had decided to give her money. Well, it might be good news for you. I said that and showed her the filled-out divorce papers. I really don't want to send you money, so I'm getting a divorce, just as you said. Bobby said he can't love me anymore, so it's okay, right? What? Also, I'm the one on the lease for this apartment. Please sign the divorce papers quickly and move out. Looking at the divorce papers, their faces turned pale as a sheet. No way! I might have mentioned divorce, but it was a joke. I had no other choice because you were being so stingy.
I was kidding too. Don't take it seriously.
The two of them, desperate for money, were pathetically making excuses. Not a single apology was directed towards me. I felt nothing for these two who only thought about themselves. I see, but it was you who suggested the divorce, right? I just followed through. As they realized that I was serious about the divorce, the two of them started to get frustrated. All you had to do was cough up the money. I can't stand that self-righteous attitude of yours.
Cut it out.
Facing the two of them who started shouting, I showed my phone and said, I've recorded everything you've said. I might be able to get some compensation if I take this to a lawyer. Or should I call the police right now? Upon realizing I had evidence, they quieted down instantly. Realizing his fate, Bobby filled out the divorce papers, packed his belongings, and left, never to return to this house again. But my mother-in-law was a different story. After the divorce was finalized, I started living freely. Bobby moved back to his parents' house. My ex-mother-in-law, seemingly desperate for money, started berating Bobby, who divorced me. I sometimes ran into Bobby at work, and he always looked exhausted. She started stuffing my mailbox with papers scrawled with nasty words, and even scratched my apartment door. What is this? I'm sure it's her. I was enraged when I discovered this. The security camera had clearly captured my ex-mother-in-law's harassment. I didn't hold back and reported this to the police, providing the footage as evidence. The police, aware of my ex-mother-in-law's rants at home, promptly issued a restraining order. Of course, I'm also billing her for all the repair costs for the apartment. Living off her husband's savings, my ex-mother-in-law couldn't afford the repair bill and ended up making Bobby pay it. Feeling responsible for the divorce, Bobby is dutifully paying in installments. After this failed marriage, I had been pessimistic about love. However, 2 years after my divorce, I found a new partner. We were dating with marriage in mind, but I didn't want any money-related issues to arise later. Actually, my parents own an apartment building. I don't get any of the money, but my ex tried to force me to give him some, and we ended up getting divorced.
Wow, that's something. It belongs to your parents, right? How greedy can someone be? It's good that you got out of there safely.
Hearing my current partner's opinion, I feel truly relieved. Not everyone thinks like my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. I want to forget those past mistakes and look forward to starting a new chapter in my life.
$100 a month for groceries should be enough. What? Wait a minute, that's impossible. If you can't keep it down to $100, we're getting divorced, understand? You can't be serious. So you're not even willing to try, huh? I never thought you are the kind of person who never tried. Such a pathetic woman. I felt a sudden surge of anger when my husband said that. If he's going to mock me like that, then I'll prove him wrong. Fine, then I'll make sure we keep our grocery expenses below $100 a month. My name is Anne, a 29-year-old housewife. My husband John and I have been married for a year. John and I met at a group date and decided to get married after dating for a year. Anne, I want you to stay home and take care of the house once we're married. So I quit my job after getting married and became a full-time housewife. I did like my job, but starting a new life with John was more important to me, so I didn't hesitate to be a housewife. Our life after marriage was sweet and blissful. Every day, I made lunchboxes for John and prepared elaborate dinners. John always said, "Anne, your cooking is really delicious," and his enjoying meals made me very happy. Back then, he had a steady job, and he would always leave work on time and come home early, so the two of us used to have peaceful and happy meals together. But recently, it seems like John's work has become busier, and he's coming home later. He used to be home by 6 p.m., but lately, he often doesn't come home until after 9 p.m. It seems like the increase in work also means he is being counted on more by his superiors and is often invited out for drinks. So every Friday night, he goes out drinking and often doesn't come home until late at night. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't lonely, but John is working hard to improve our life together, so I can't complain. So I decided to make an even greater effort with the lunchboxes, giving John a taste of home. I put so much effort into them. They looked like something you might buy in a department store. So I started making an extra one for myself to eat for lunch, just knowing I was eating the same lunch as John, around the same time during his lunch break, made me feel like we were having a meal together, which was a great comfort. I sincerely hope that my homemade lunchboxes can bring some comfort to my husband even if it's just a little bit. With that thought in mind, I pour my heart and soul into preparing them. John seemed to notice the changes in the lunches, and after coming home, he would cheerfully say, "Lately, you've been making such extravagant lunches for me. They're all delicious." When he praised me like that, I felt motivated to do even more. Since then, I've continued to work hard on the lunch boxes, making them both tasty and appealing. Before I knew it, cooking was becoming my hobby. I began to take pictures of the lunch boxes and post them on social media, and I was surprised to find that the posts were getting quite a lot of attention. Before, I only had a few followers, mostly friends, but the number of likes and followers started to increase rapidly. This was a first for me, and it was very exciting. I started to see comments from people wanting to know the recipes, so I began to post detailed recipes along with the photos. Sure enough, there were people who tried to imitate and create what I made. I received delightful comments like, "My husband said it was delicious," or "I included it in my child's lunchbox, and they requested it again." And this is a first for me. I was thrilled and was gradually getting into cooking more. It might be even better if prepared in this way. Maybe reducing the amount of this seasoning might bring out the sweetness of the ingredients. As I continued to cook while pondering these things, I found that I had created quite a number of recipes. I hadn't thought I'd pick up a new hobby at this age. My husband John seemed as busy with work as ever, spending less time at home due to overtime and working on weekends. But I didn't feel as lonely as I thought I would, because I used my alone time to study nutrition and even obtained a nutritionist certification. Time flew by, and 2 years of our married life had passed. I started thinking it might be about time to have a child. When I discussed it with my husband, his response was not what I expected. Before we got married, I remember him talking about wanting to have 2 kids, so his reaction was surprising. Maybe he still wants a child, but thinks it's not the right time, or perhaps there has been some change in his mind. Somehow I felt a bit sad, as if we were not able to communicate properly as a couple. Looking back, I feel that John is less interested in me than he used to be. Our intimate nights have obviously decreased, and even when I try to initiate, I get turned down with excuses like, "I'm tired, sorry." He also stopped giving feedback about the lunchboxes I put so much effort into making. I felt increasingly lonely, wondering if this was the so-called marital doldrums. One day, amidst all of this, my husband made a surprising remark. "Anne, aren't you overdoing it with these elaborate dishes?" "Huh? I'm troubled by you squandering the money I earn." "Don't refer to it as squandering. And I haven't been making extravagant expenditures, you know? I'm simply using regular-priced ingredients and figuring out recipes to make tasty meals while keeping costs low." "That's impossible. Those visually appealing and tasty lunchboxes must cost a lot to make." "No, not at all. Just a little ingenuity and preparation can change the flavor quite significantly. Don't lie to me. I know you always take pictures of the lunchboxes you make and post them on social media." "Huh? I didn't expect my husband to know about my social media, but it seemed like he hadn't looked through every detail." "You're always focusing on making it look good for social media. Stop showing off that you can make these luxurious lunchboxes. It's embarrassing to know that my wife is spending money to get likes. I can't accept my earnings being used to satisfy your need for approval." "Why would you say that? I'm not uploading pictures with that intention at all. Initially, I just wanted to share when I managed to make something delicious. And now I'm more focused on challenging myself to enhance the look and taste of meals with cheap ingredients so others can easily imitate." No matter how much I tried to explain to my husband, he wasn't willing to listen. "No need for excuses. $100 per month is more than enough for food expenses." "What?" I was flabbergasted. It would be incredibly hard to keep food expenses for 2 adults at $100 per month. Since John doesn't cook much, he may not know how much it costs. Groceries are not just the cost of the food ingredients. They also include things like beverages, seasonings, oils, and so many more. Keeping it under $100? Impossible. "Oh, hold on a minute. There's no way I can do that." "Why not? Haven't you been trying to save money by being resourceful with your cooking so far? If so, it should be perfectly feasible. If you can't keep it under $100, we're getting a divorce." "What? Divorce? No way!" I couldn't understand why my husband John would say such a cruel thing. He used to be so kind. Why did he change? It's unfair to suddenly bring up divorce. If you have any complaints, speak up. Don't make impossible demands. I tried my best to initiate a discussion, but John wouldn't listen. So, you're not even going to try because you think it's impossible from the start? I never thought you were so pitiful. I guess you're just cooking to satisfy your own need for approval. I was furious when John said that to me. If he's going to look down on me like that, I'll show him. Fine, I'll keep it under $100 for the month. No complaints then, right? Yeah, make sure it stays under $100. I was being stubborn. I didn't care that John had changed. I decided to focus all my energy on succeeding in this mission of keeping the groceries under $100 for a month. From then on, I started to make various changes to my cooking. I thought about various ingredients that could substitute for meat, and tried using tofu and fish cake. I also experimented with combinations of seasonings to create different flavors, like mixing bean paste and dried bonito into egg liquid to make an egg saboro that tasted like spicy cod roe. By doing so, I was able to significantly reduce the cost of groceries. In addition, I visited various supermarkets and searched online to find stores that sell pasta and drinks for cheap prices, and worked hard to save money. It was close, but I managed to keep the grocery bill under $100. I gave a mental fist pump saying, "Take that, John." However, John didn't ask about the results or anything. He just went on with his life as usual. I was disappointed that he didn't seem interested in something he had proposed. But I didn't know when he might bring up the issue of groceries again, so I decided to continue with the $100 grocery lifestyle. In order to make it as enjoyable as possible, I started a new project on social media, regularly posting about our life on a $100 grocery budget. As before, I posted recipes so that everyone could replicate my budget-friendly meals. I saw a comment about wanting to see a video summary, so I started uploading weekly videos on a video sharing site that neatly summarized what I was doing. To my surprise, I got a lot of feedback, and the number of subscribers on the video sharing site increased rapidly, enabling me to monetize it in no time. I was amazed at how the world has changed. The more people watched, the more motivated I became, and I kept coming up with new recipes. In the midst of everything, my husband John told me he would be going on a 3-day business trip the week after next. With that news, I figured there would be no need for me to cook, so I planned to return to my hometown. My hometown is quite a distance away, so I would need to take a plane. So I quickly reserved my plane tickets. Then, before I knew it, the day had arrived, and John left the house in the morning with his carry-on suitcase. He planned to drop by the office before heading to the airport. A little while after John left, I packed my bags and also headed to the airport. Since I was only going home, I packed light enough to fit everything into a backpack. Since I packed light, I was able to leave the house quickly and without any hassle. Upon arriving at the airport, I found a casual cafe where I sat back and enjoyed a cup of coffee while responding to comments on my videos and social media posts. Then, I heard it. I could hear John's voice somewhere. Even in crowded places, his voice is familiar, so I instantly recognized it was him. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw John walking in front of the cafe. Just as I was about to call out to him, I noticed a woman walking beside him. What's more, they were walking arm in arm, seeming rather close. I couldn't take my eyes off the pair. That was undoubtedly John. Is he having an affair? Was the whole business trip a lie? I was so shocked by what was happening right before my eyes that I was rooted to the spot for a while. My flight was due, so with a heavy heart, I boarded my plane and went home. My parents warmly welcomed me, but noticed my downcast expression and asked me what was wrong. My parents expressed their anger at John, saying what a jerk he is. That lightened my mood a little. After that, I decided to put John aside and enjoy my time at home. My mom's cooking was delicious, and it reminded me of when I first started living alone and worked hard to recreate her taste in my own cooking. After some much-needed relaxation at home, I returned to our house. Immediately upon my return, I hired a private investigator. I had never been more grateful for my advertising income from my social media. A few weeks later, the investigation results came in. In short, John was having an affair. It seems that his mistress was a junior at his office. Furthermore, after investigating in detail, it appears that their relationship had been ongoing for about 6 months. That timeline coincided with when John started working overtime and on weekends more frequently. Could it be that he was spending too much money on his mistress, and that's why he asked me to save on groceries? Thinking this, everything made sense. An intense rage against John welled up within me, pretending to be frugal when all he wanted was to increase the money he could spend. The audacity. I decided to take some action against John. From the next day, I stopped cooking for him. Huh? Where's my lunch? It's too tough to keep food costs down to $100, so I stopped making it. Here, figure something out with this. Saying that, I handed over $2. Huh? What am I supposed to buy with this? You can buy a convenience store rice ball, right? And maybe a ready-made sandwich or something. With the remaining change, you can get some cheap coffee at the office. Just about making ends meet. Don't joke with me. Can I satisfy my hunger with this poor meal? Even if it's $100 a month, we should be able to use a bit more. Nope, that's still barely scraping by. Spending $2 5 days a week for a month already takes up $40. You'd need to prepare a month's worth of dinners with remaining $60. Well, you could get by if you have instant noodles for dinner every day. Are you kidding me? If I keep having such unhealthy meals, I'll get sick. But if we don't stick to instant noodles around $1.50 each, we can't fit within $100. $1.50 for 30 days is $45. Add that to lunch, and you're already at $85. Then you've got to keep your monthly beverage expenses within $15. Once I explained this far, my husband John finally seemed to understand the difficulty of keeping food expenses within $100. Hold on a sec. So you're saying the lunch and dinners you've been making so far exceeded $100? No, I managed to keep it within $100 through my efforts. Then why don't we just continue that? No way. You and I are strangers now. That's why I'm teaching you how to manage food expenses on $100 without me. What? What do you mean? I thrust divorce papers at my surprised husband. Divorce? Why all of a sudden? It's not sudden. I've been preparing ever since I found out about your affair. Upon hearing this, John turned pale. What affair are you talking about? Pretending not to know won't do any good. I showed him photos proving the affair. I had these investigated and got the evidence. Now there's no escaping it. I'm asking for a divorce and compensation. John was dumbfounded with his mouth open. He probably hadn't expected to get caught. But still, he tried to argue back, perhaps because of his high pride. Sure, I may have had an affair, but won't you be in trouble if we divorce? You were a housewife. How will you get by once you're on your own? Your family is far away. What are you going to do? Wouldn't it be better to forgive your husband's one mistake and continue our married life? I was astounded. What a jerk he was to say such a thing. Sorry, but I have quite an income now. Huh? The social media posts you look down on have led to various work opportunities for me. I also get substantial income from ad revenue for my video posts, and I'm about to release a book of money-saving cooking recipes. Recipe book? You're releasing a book? To tell you the truth, I'm earning a lot more than you are, so I'm not worried about being alone. Really? John thought I was just a housewife and has been looking down on me. He was shocked in various ways when he found out I was earning more than him. He was no longer able to say anything and was looking down. Just fill out the darn divorce papers, will ya? If you put up a fight, I'm game for anything. I said that as I grabbed my bags that I had packed in advance and hightailed it out of the house. Afterward, through a lawyer, I communicated with my husband and the divorce went through without a hitch. I also managed to get alimony from my ex-husband and his mistress. Word spread like wildfire through his office about his affair because one of our mutual acquaintances works there. Folks are giving my ex the cold shoulder for betraying his wife, who packed him a loving, homemade lunch every single day. The mistress couldn't take the pressure and quit her job. My ex is apparently strapped for cash because of the alimony and money he showered on his mistress. He can't quit his job, so he kept working at the same company, dealing with an awkward atmosphere at work. On the flip side, I moved into a lovely place with a state-of-the-art kitchen, and I'm cooking a lot more. My recipe book got published, and sales are through the roof. I plan to keep cooking a bunch of dishes and live a fun-filled life.